Picture this. The year is 2025, and you're standing on the Las Vegas Strip. The neon glow is still there, a ghost of its former glory. The billboards scream promises of opulence and thrills, but it's a hollow promise. A chilling emptiness hangs in the air. The once teeming sidewalks, a river of humanity, are now just a trickle. The casinos, once roaring with life, now drone with a cold, mechanical pulse. What catastrophic failure has befallen the self-proclaimed entertainment capital of the world? The real story isn't found in corporate reports or press releases. It's a dark secret whispered by the very people who once sang its praises, the tourists. Their voices, once alight with wonder and joy, are now choked with raw anger, bitter regret, and profound disappointment. They speak of predatory hidden fees that ambush unsuspecting families, of drink prices so extortionate they border on criminal, and of a city that has traded its soul for greed. Make no mistake, these are not isolated incidents. This is a tidal wave of outrage, a digital chorus of betrayal flooding social media and review sites. The truth is a gut punch, a grim reality that the polished advertisements will never dare to reveal. In this expose, we are tearing back the curtain to reveal the damning testimonials from the tourists themselves. We will count down the most shocking realities forcing visitors to flee, and finally ask the question that sends shivers down the spine of every casino boss. Has Sin City's luck finally run out? The legend of Las Vegas wasn't built in a day. For decades, it was a dazzling mirage in the Nevada desert, a beacon of liberation and high-stakes excitement. It was a place where the impossible felt within reach. Back in the 1950s and 60s, Vegas crackled with a dangerous glamour, bankrolled by mob fortunes and graced by Hollywood royalty. People flocked here for the sheer spectacle, the blazing neon, the legendary Rat Pack, the intoxicating thrill of the game. But then, in the 1980s and 90s, a new power seized control: the corporations. They sanitized the risk, transforming Vegas into a sprawling theme park for families as much as high rollers. Giant monuments to this new era, like the Luxor and Excalibur, rose from the desert floor. Treasure Island and others morphed the Strip into a fantasy land. The promise was seductive and simple. Vegas was for everyone, with its cheap buffets, free parking, and legendary comps. It didn't matter if you were a whale or a family on a budget, Vegas embraced you. But that welcome has curdled. A sinister shift began to take hold. The very corporations that built this new family-friendly empire started to tighten their fist. The driving force was no longer generosity, but cold, hard profit margins. The ultimate escape was meticulously re-engineered into the ultimate trap. By the mid-2010s, the first wave of the assault began. So-called resort fees materialized on bills, ambushing unsuspecting guests. Then came the unthinkable. Paid parking became the grim new standard. Cocktail prices skyrocketed into the stratosphere, while the iconic all-you-can-eat buffets were either shuttered or resurrected at grotesquely inflated prices. What was once a playground now felt like a predatory, perfectly calibrated machine designed for one purpose: to bleed every last dollar from your wallet. And the tourists absolutely noticed. The online chorus shifted from adoration to furious warnings. Families who had made Vegas an annual pilgrimage began fleeing to rivals like Orlando, or even international destinations like Cancun. For the first time in its modern history, the name Vegas was no longer synonymous with freedom and excitement. It had become a byword for disappointment and financial regret. This catastrophic collapse in public trust set the stage for the bombshells we're about to reveal. When the lifeblood of the city, the tourists, declare it a bad investment, you're not just looking at a problem, you're looking at a system on the verge of collapse. It all starts with an innocuous little line on your hotel bill. But this single charge, the resort fee, has become the ultimate symbol of Las Vegas's betrayal and decay. They sold it as a convenience, a simple fee to cover Wi-Fi or pool access. But this mandatory charge, often $40 or even $50 a night, is nothing but a cynical cash grab. And it's not the price that ignites the fury. It's the blatant calculated deception. A hotel dangles an attractive room rate, say $129, luring you in. But by checkout, the final bill has grotesquely inflated, sometimes to nearly double the advertised price. Tourists don't just feel tricked, they feel violated. And now they're fighting back by refusing to book at all. This insidious practice has become a plague on the Strip. There is no escape. For any family trying to manage a budget, this turns the dream of an affordable getaway into a waking financial nightmare. In review after scathing review, visitors use the same damning phrase: legalized theft. They recount the sickening jolt of discovering the true cost only after it's too late, when they are already trapped. For a city built on the promise of incredible value, this relentless, predatory nickel and diming isn't just a new policy. It is a declaration of war on its own visitors, and it has pushed them to the absolute breaking point. Resort fees are no longer just a surcharge. They are a glaring, insulting symbol that Vegas has declared war on your wallet. For decades, the promise of free parking was a sacred pact in Las Vegas. Whether you were a high roller in a gleaming limousine or a family piling out of a dusty minivan, the city didn't just welcome you, it practically begged you to leave your vehicle free of charge as part of its seductive charm. The real game was inside the casinos, not in some predatory parking garage. But then, in the mid-2010s, that sacred tradition was silently executed. What began as a supposed special event fee metastasized into a permanent, parasitic charge. Today, unsuspecting tourists are met with the shocking demand to pay $20, $25, sometimes even a staggering $30 a day, merely to park at the very resort, bleeding them for hundreds of dollars already. For anyone daring to rent a car, the financial assault multiplies with sickening speed, transforming a weekend getaway into an exercise in fiscal punishment. And unlike congested cities where such fees are a grim necessity, Las Vegas, with its endless seas of asphalt, has no such excuse. Visitors see this for exactly what it is: a shameless, predatory cash grab. The internet screams with the bitter warnings of tourists who felt penalized simply for the audacity of arriving. Families who once saw Vegas as an affordable escape now stop in their tracks, horrified by the calculation that the parking bill alone could fund an entire night's stay somewhere else. What was once a grand gesture of American hospitality has devolved into a cold symbol of corporate exploitation, leaving countless people to wonder if Vegas even wants them there at all. There was a time, now a distant memory, when Vegas was a paradise of cheap eats and flowing drinks, where casinos would practically bribe you to stay with dollar shrimp cocktails, endless free drinks at the slots, and sprawling buffets for under $10. This wasn't just about food, it was the very essence of the Vegas promise. But today, visitors tell a chillingly different tale. A single mediocre cocktail at a casino bar will bleed you for $20. And sometimes a gut-wrenching $25. A simple domestic beer worth $5 anywhere else can command double digits on the Strip without a hint of shame. Dare to sit down for a casual meal, and the bill for a family of 4 can grotesquely mirror the cost of a fine dining gala in any other major city. The iconic buffets that defined Vegas indulgence have either been wiped from existence or resurrected as shockingly expensive, hollowed-out mockeries of their former glory. Guests leave feeling not satisfied, but utterly swindled. For a growing number of travelers, this brutal sticker shock is the final straw. The quirky, beloved perk of a cheap meal in the desert is dead. In its place is the gnawing, ever-present suspicion that every bite you take, every sip you swallow, has been meticulously engineered to drain your bank account. Social media has become a gallery of horrors, with tourists posting warnings with photos of their $30 sandwiches and $15 bottles of water, fueling a firestorm of outrage. To these betrayed visitors, the extortionate price of food and drinks isn't just a disappointment. It is the final, damning evidence that Las Vegas has turned its back on the very people who made it famous. Hospitality was once the lifeblood of Las Vegas. Tourists would recount with awe how dealers remembered their names, how cocktail waitresses never let a glass run dry, and how every hotel guest was treated like a king. That legendary spirit is now in a state of terminal decline. In recent years, a tidal wave of complaints has crashed online, detailing how Vegas service has become cold, dismissive, and brutally transactional. Agonizingly long lines just to check in, bartenders who refuse to make eye contact, and casino staff who behave more like hostile security guards than welcoming hosts. These are the new, grim stories defining the Vegas experience. The corporations blame staffing shortages, a convenient excuse for the skeleton crews left to manage the overwhelming hordes of guests. But to the tourists on the receiving end, the excuses are meaningless. What they experience is a city that clearly no longer values their presence, a place where they are treated with a chilling indifference, as if they should feel privileged just to be allowed in. When you are already being gouged by resort fees, parking charges, and astronomical drink prices, this rude and careless service feels like a final, deliberate slap in the face. The deepest betrayal is that Vegas built its global empire on the exact opposite promise. The fantasy that everyone, from the penny slot player to the penthouse whale, would be treated like absolute royalty. Now, the very people who journeyed here to escape their daily grind find themselves trapped in the same nightmare of frustration and disrespect they tried to leave behind. This catastrophic failure of service doesn't just ruin a vacation, it poisons the very soul of what once made Las Vegas a legend. But of course, Las Vegas has always been a master of marketing. The glittering facade of flashy billboards, the hypnotic pull of dazzling commercials, and that infamous promise, what happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas, wove a powerful myth that lured millions into its grasp. But now, that carefully constructed illusion is shattering. Returning tourists are sounding the alarm. The glittering promises are a lie, a cruel deception. Those so-called all-inclusive packages are a bait and switch, designed to bleed you dry with a barrage of steep, hidden charges. The legendary free drinks while you gamble? A cruel joke, now shackled with impossible conditions. Exorbitant minimum bets, agonizingly long waits, and cocktails so diluted they're an insult. And those hotel bargains? They're a ticking time bomb, exploding with a litany of bogus fees the moment you dare to check out. Then you have the so-called exclusive experiences, marketed as once-in-a-lifetime spectacles that are revealed to be nothing more than chaotic, overcrowded nightmares. They're profoundly underwhelming, a pathetic sham not even remotely worth the exorbitant price. For those who saved and dreamed, this isn't just disappointment, it's a personal betrayal. There was a time when Vegas prided itself on generosity, on delivering more than it promised. A comped meal, a surprise suite upgrade, the electric feeling that fortune was just around the corner. But that narrative has been viciously torn apart. Now visitors feel like suckers, systematically conned into paying more for a hollowed-out experience. Digital town squares like TripAdvisor and Reddit are overflowing with cautionary tales, desperate warnings from travelers who were ensnared by promises that were always too good to be true. They were lured in by seductive offers, only to be cast out feeling bitter and used. The whispers are growing louder. Las Vegas, the new capital of the bait and switch. And for a city built entirely on perception and fantasy, this chasm between the promise and the painful reality is a slow-acting poison. Because when the victims start warning each other to ignore the siren's call, the very magic of Vegas marketing, its most potent weapon, begins to turn on itself catastrophically. The casinos, once the thundering, electric heart of this city, a place pulsating with glamour and raw possibility, have seen that magic suffocated. It's been drowned in a tidal wave of relentless noise, suffocating chaos and crushing crowds that make the entire ordeal simply unbearable. Forget the fantasy of sleek, spacious halls buzzing with excitement. What visitors are now reporting is a grim reality. Endless floors crammed to the breaking point with blinking, screaming slot machines. The aisles are claustrophobic canyons, jammed with a sluggish sea of people. And the gaming tables are so mobbed you can't even fight your way to a seat. The constant cacophonous blare from these machines, mixed with the choking stench of stale cigarette smoke in the older venues, is an assault on the senses, leaving guests utterly drained in less than an hour. This isn't a glamorous escape, it's a sensory punishment. It's been compared to a chaotic bus terminal, just with more flashing lights. And to pour salt in the wound, the casinos are systematically replacing human dealers with cold, automated machines. This cynical move rips the soul out of the experience, erasing the very personal touch that made it special. Visitors are lamenting that the simple joy of a charismatic dealer or the camaraderie with fellow players has been sterilized, replaced by the cold, impersonal finality of a machine. And if you think you'll get a drink while you play, think again. The waits for any kind of service have become insultingly long. It's a recipe for misery where frustration completely annihilates any hope of fun. The verdict from many is damning. Gambling in Vegas is no longer an adventure. It's like being processed like cattle through a soulless money extraction factory. So when the casinos, the very foundation upon which this city was built, devolve into these overcrowded, soulless mechanical beasts, is it any wonder that countless tourists flee? asking themselves one haunting question: why did I ever come here? Because for decades, the lie was that Vegas wasn't just about gambling. It was about the spectacle, the shows. People flocked here for legends: Elvis, Frank Sinatra, the Rat Pack. They came for the breathtaking Cirque du Soleil epics, for residencies by titans like Celine Dion and Elton John, for magic that defied reality itself. This world-class entertainment was the city's heartbeat, the magic that could forge an unforgettable memory even if you never wagered a single dime. But now, visitors are witnessing that magic being extinguished. Legendary productions haven't just closed, they've vanished, disappearing without a whisper. In their place rise cheap, repetitive acts that are a pale imitation, utterly failing to inspire awe. Even Cirque du Soleil, once the undisputed king of the strip with a fleet of dazzling productions, has been forced into a humiliating retreat. The new productions are often just hollowed out shells of the spectacles that once defined this city. Guests arriving with dreams of world-class artistry now leave feeling cheated, having endured overpriced, uninspired performances that feel like a cash grab. And the few remaining big-name residencies? They've become the exclusive playground of the wealthy, with astronomical ticket prices that slam the door in the face of the average person. Families that once built their entire vacation around seeing a legendary show now leave the city having seen nothing. And the tragedy is, it's not for a lack of desire. It's because the value has been completely eviscerated. For so many, this is the most heartbreaking betrayal of all. The entertainment wasn't just an attraction, it was the very soul of Las Vegas. It was the vibrant pulse that proved the city was more than just its casinos. But now, with a barren landscape of fewer options and predatory pricing, tourists describe a strip that feels desolate, like a grand theater after the final curtain has fallen, and the audience has long gone home. For decades, the central promise of Las Vegas was that it was a sanctuary, a place to finally let your guard down, where the only gamble was supposed to be at the card table. But a terrifying new reality is dawning. Tourists are openly declaring they no longer feel safe walking the strip, as a dark undercurrent of petty crime becomes a nightmarish, recurring theme in their desperate reviews. They face a gauntlet of pickpockets, confrontational beggars, and predatory street hustlers who prey on anyone who seems even slightly vulnerable, with chilling accounts emerging of travelers being stalked through the shadows late at night. Worse still, others recount brazen thefts unfolding right inside the supposed sanctuary of hotel lobbies, while the most brutal incidents, though rarer, blaze across headlines, fueling a pervasive and growing sense of dread. Families, in particular, are sounding the loudest alarm, horrified that a destination once billed as a safe, all-ages paradise now transforms into a hazardous gamble after sunset. Social media is flooded with damning evidence. Raw videos of brawls erupting on casino floors, terrifying reports of room invasions, and urgent warnings to avoid entire blocks near the strip as if they were war zones. And while city officials desperately try to claim crime rates are under control, their hollow reassurances mean nothing against the crushing weight of tourist perception. And right now, that perception is utterly bleak. Vegas was built on a glittering illusion of carefree fun. But how can that survive when visitors are forced to clutch their wallets and second-guess every single step they take? The fantasy is shattering into a million pieces. These terrifying safety concerns might not stop the most reckless gamblers or partygoers, but for countless ordinary travelers, the risk is becoming unbearable. The outrageous idea of spending their hard-earned money just to feel constantly on edge is a betrayal that's driving them away in droves. But beyond all the outrage over fees, the price gouged drinks, the pathetic shows, or even the fear for their safety, one complaint cuts deeper than any other. Tourists are declaring that Las Vegas has simply lost its soul. For generations, a trip to Vegas was like crossing into a different dimension, a dazzling realm where the impossible felt within reach, where the lights blazed eternal and the night was an endless promise. It was never just about the cards or the shows. It was about the electrifying feeling that anything could happen. But now, in 2025, visitors confess with heavy hearts that the spark has been extinguished. Sure, the strip still glows, the fountains still perform their tired dance, and the casinos hum with a hollow buzz, but the very soul of the city is gone. Travelers now speak of a suffocating plastic artificiality. It's as if the city has become a cheap, hollow imitation of its former glory. Instead of wonder, they're left feeling utterly drained. Instead of adventure, they feel relentlessly nickel and dimed into submission. That legendary thrill of arriving in Vegas has been replaced by a gnawing anxiety over hidden costs and the crushing disappointment of one lackluster experience after another. And it's all compounded by the infuriating realization that this city now values profit far more than people. Some tourists confess they fled early, vowing never to return. Others deliver a far more damning verdict. Their trip was forgettable. Could there be a more devastating judgment for a city that built its entire empire on creating unforgettable moments? When the very people who built the legend now leave feeling bitter, or even worse, completely indifferent, it signals a crisis far deeper than mere economic decline. It's a catastrophic loss of identity. And for a growing number of travelers, this stolen magic is the final nail in the coffin. The real reason they're booking flights to anywhere but Las Vegas. These tourist confessions are more than just a laundry list of grievances. They are a harrowing portrait of a city spiraling through a complete identity crisis. Las Vegas was never supposed to be just another generic vacation spot. It was meant to be the renegade, the icon that completely redefined what entertainment could be. It was the one destination where excess and indulgence weren't just tolerated, they were celebrated. But now, when visitors recount their trips, the words they use are frustration and disappointment. And even regret, an undeniable sign that the very foundation of its identity is crumbling. The death of Vegas's magic isn't just about outrageous resort fees or overpriced cocktails. It represents a much more sinister transformation, a toxic shift from generosity to pure greed, from breathtaking spectacle to mind-numbing sameness, from wide-eyed wonder to soul-crushing weariness. And the cold, hard statistics only confirm this grim perception. Visitor numbers, once a reliable upward climb, have been violently fluctuating ever since the pandemic. While other US destinations and international hotspots have roared back to life, Las Vegas is left choking on stagnant growth and a pathetically uneven recovery. Hotel occupancy is plummeting during what should be peak season, and the average tourist spend is in free fall, as visitors either cut their disastrous trips short or just avoid the city entirely. Meanwhile, an entire new generation, millennials and Gen Z, are turning their backs on the Strip's tired old formula of gambling and gaudy shows. They're seeking real experiences in vibrant destinations like Austin, Nashville, or even global hubs like Cancun and Dubai. Places where the entertainment feels authentic and the value isn't a cynical illusion. But the erosion of trust, that is the most dangerous fallout of all. Because once tourists feel they've been conned, gouged, and utterly disrespected, they don't just complain, they become evangelists of warning. And in today's world, online platforms amplify their furious voices into a deafening roar, unleashing a tidal wave of outrage that can obliterate an entire industry. A single damning TikTok exposing the shameless fees or a hollow experience can poison the minds of millions, driving away potential victims in a heartbeat. This is the brutal new battlefield of travel. In 2025, a city's reputation is shattered long before its advertising dollars can ever hope to respond. And for a house of cards like Vegas, whose entire economy is propped up by reputation, this shift is nothing short of catastrophic. A glance at its rivals reveals just how high the stakes have become. Look at Macau, the so-called Vegas of the East, which learned the hard way that spectacle without substance is a recipe for disaster. Then there's Dubai, which has meticulously crafted an image of pure luxury, but it's a promise they actually back up, ensuring every visitor feels they are part of something truly unique. A lesson Vegas has tragically forgotten. Even a city like New Orleans, with all its raw grit, clings to an undeniable authenticity that seduces tourists again and again. Vegas, in stark, shameful contrast, is dangerously close to being exposed as a fraud, a cheap, artificial knockoff of its former glory, endlessly rehashing tired gimmicks to bleed visitors dry. And make no mistake, this is a dire warning for the entire American tourism industry. This is what happens when corporate greed devours the human experience, when slick marketing lies eclipse the grim reality, and when a city sells its very soul for a quick buck. The fall is not just possible, It's inevitable. Vegas is still standing, but it has squandered its most precious asset, the trust and loyalty of the people who once believed in it. And that kind of loyalty, once shattered, can never be bought back. These voices of disgust aren't just complaints, they are sirens wailing a terrible warning. If Vegas refuses to rediscover its soul, hungrier, smarter destinations are circling like vultures, ready to snatch its tarnished crown. Las Vegas isn't gone, but it has mutated into something unrecognizable, something tourists now revile. The neon still burns, the casinos drone on, and the Strip puts on its glittering facade. But beneath that blinding light is a city in its death throes, desperately clinging to the ghost of what made it a legend. The visitors see right through the spectacle now. They are financially drained by predatory fees, disgusted by contemptuous service, and terrified by the growing sense of danger. But worst of all, they feel the magic being systematically extinguished, replaced by a cold, calculating machine engineered for one thing only: to extract every last cent from their pockets. And that horrifying truth, now shouted from the rooftops by its former fans, poses a greater threat to the city's future than any economic collapse. Because the moment the world stops believing in the illusion, the moment they stop whispering to their friends, "You have to go," the entire myth of Vegas will collapse into dust. The terrifying question now is, can this city even be saved? Or is it doomed to become a pathetic parody of its legendary past? Can Vegas claw its way back to the generosity, the authenticity, the untamed spirit that once made it the most exciting place on earth? Or is it too late? Has the final curtain already fallen on the greatest show in the desert? What is your verdict? Has Sin City sold its soul for good, or is there a flicker of hope for redemption? Unleash your fury in the comments below. And if you have your own Vegas horror story, you must expose it. We need to hear the truth. Don't you dare forget to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell, because we will not stop exposing the ugly truth behind the glittering lies. Because in Vegas, just as in life, the sickening secrets festering in the dark are always, eventually, dragged into the unforgiving light.